everyone. It looks like we're live.
We are. We're live. We're live.
Yeah. And we are on our conversation on being with Smriti Goswani. Welcome.
Yeah,
With
Helen
Smriti
and
Gitlevich and
I'm
Helen.
excited.
Thank you so much for inviting me here. I'm so looking forward to being a part of this. And thank you for creating something, a platform like this. Thank you so much.
Well,
It was our
it not only is it our pleasure, but it's also our curiosity, our excitement, our thrilled. So Helen and I are brand new BYCFs. You've been a BYCF since, ta-da,
since dawn of
I'm
your founding member.
I've been a BYCF since 2016 when it was first created. So that's the time when I also chose to become a CF. And immediately after that was the BYCF training. And I just knew I had to choose this class. There was something about this class. There's something about being a BYCF. It's such an amazing space to be.
So tell me, like that's a huge leap. I mean, you're jumping in with 2 feet and you're choosing being. So what inspired you? What popped this in your universe so strongly? What have you seen with it, and what everything?
So Rachel, usually I just follow an energy. Okay, at that moment I didn't even know this is how I choose things, but I was just following an energy. And there was a demand in my world where I really wanted to choose something big and great. And this just matched everything about being a BYCF, just sort of matched that. So the moment they announced that there'll be a BYCF training, and that was for the first time, okay, I just knew I had to be a part of it. And so this was in 2016. Way back in 2015 is when I attended the first Being You class, which was held in Mumbai here, like my first Being You class. And so that was one class where I initially walked in for the interview, the intro class. And I'd taken my daughter along with me. And the class went on for about 3 hours or more, 4 hours or so, okay? When I came back home, I was like, okay, what is it about this class? I already have the book. There's nothing else that I'm going to learn from here. So should I even choose it? Should I? Shouldn't I? I really wanted to choose it, but I was, trying to be rational, trying to sort of weigh the pros and cons and trying to figure out, is this even for me? But
which is probably how you'd end up excluding almost everything in your life.
Right. So, and then also at that moment, I found all possible reasons why I should not be choosing this class, because my daughter was suddenly not well. She was down with fever and all that. And till I realized that what is it I'm resisting here? When you really are stepping into a bigger league, there are everything that you've been holding on to stop you will start suddenly coming right in front of you to stop you. And that's exactly what was happening. And I was like, I'm just choosing this class. So I called up the hosts and I reached the class at around 11 o'clock instead of the class had started at 9:30. And I couldn't stay on beyond lunchtime. By 3:30 or so, I just knew I had to leave that place because my head was spinning, my body was so uncomfortable, and I didn't know what was happening. And I came back home, and of course, I had an excuse ready that my daughter's not well, so I had to get back. Then the next day, I again dilly-dallied, didn't really want to reach there on time. So I tried on almost about 50 different outfits. And I couldn't decide which one to wear. And finally, I'm like, what am I doing? What am I resisting with this? And then I just made up my mind and I went. Again, I reached the class at around 11 o'clock. And I was like, what is this going on? Then that class, I can't even begin to tell you how much change it created for me. Everything that I'd been making myself wrong for, being affected by other people's judgments, everything that I was using to stop me. And I realized that, none of this is actually true. And why would I stop myself because others are not happy for me? And it was, how when you just start perceiving other people's judgments, and the first thing you do is, immediately get into your box, just sort of hide away so that you don't really shine, or you're not really being willing to be the tall poppy so that nobody sort of sees you. So
Or
all those
cuts
things
your head
happened.
off.
Right. And that class created so much of change for me, because after that, I didn't stop choosing. I just kept on choosing one thing after the other, all possible classes, and till I became a CF. And then immediately, I just knew I had to choose the BYCF training.
So what is being you? Because a lot of people like look at the book, as you said, look at the class, and it's like, I read the book, I don't need the class. So Smriti, what is that about the class that actually, first of all, drew you in to become a certified facilitator? And what's going on in that class? Like, I understand it's hard to explain because what is being you? So maybe you can speak about what is being you and what is the class all about?
All right. Thanks for that question, Helen. Being you for me means showing up as you. Absolutely being totally vulnerable, the raw, vulnerable uh, person that you are. Like, just show up without being bothered about what others are going to judge you as, or whether somebody's going to be happy or for you or not. You just show up. Just be willing to be seen. And also be willing to have fun, because you know how much we just stop ourselves because people, it's also about not waiting for others to understand you.
Yeah.
Okay, let
Yeah.
me tell you what it
Yeah,
means.
that's a
So
mic drop, by the way.
That's a
Not
huge
wait.
mic.
Say that again.
before I say that, let me just say what I just remembered. Being you for me means not waiting for others to receive you, but being willing to be there for yourself and to receive yourself completely,
Yeah.
without any judgments. So that's what it means to me. I don't wait now for others to receive me. I just choose to show up, whether they like me or not. It's not my job to please everyone, which used to be earlier. Now all that has changed. So
Yeah.
it's just, how earlier I would be like one person who would staple, fold, mutilate myself just to sort of fit in with other people's expectations and what they wanted from
The
me.
most
And I just
beautiful piece of Smriti origami, right? Whatever form they would like, you would.
right. Yeah, I would make myself into that Smriti origami and just fit in with them, and not anymore. So I had this conversation once with Dr. Dane. I was part of a session that he was doing during one of the 7-day events. And so he mentioned to me at that moment, he says, if you think you're being nice and good will make people like you, you're mistaken, because they're just going to walk all over you. And since we were in Africa at that time for the 7-day event, he's like, have you been going for the safaris? Did you see a lion there? I said, I did. He says, what is it about the lion? And he says, the lion is not the biggest animal there in the jungle. Yet it's that aura or the energy that he has that you mess with me and I'm going to kill you. That, are you willing to be that energy? Are you willing to be that killing energy? And I was like, yeah, sure. But it took me, let me tell you, it took me 2 years to actually fathom what he actually meant with that. And it took me at least 2 years to start being that energy. Because you're so used to perceiving what other people want, you're so used to perceiving what they expect from you, and you're so busy catering to their whims and fancies that you just forget about yourself. And being you sort of made me receive me
I love
and
that.
stand up for me. So that's what this class actually means to me.
Yeah, I love what you said about the lion, because lion does not even have to kill in order to be respected. The other animals stay away from him because they know
That he
so
has
how
that.
much, how much we actually refuse to be that energy, how much we refuse to be that overpowering greatness that kind of tell, because people are aware. They know. They
It's
know
also
when you, yeah.
it's interesting because the lion doesn't go out and just kill for the sake of killing, whatever. Only when something's in his way pisses him off, or he's hungry or whatever, he's willing. He's always willing. Doesn't mean that that's what he's doing all the time,
Right.
but he's
So
got that included.
I watch a lot of videos on lions and stuff because I just find them really cute and adorable, but they also have that aura about them that you mess with me and I will kill you. It's just being that energy where it's like you don't let people walk all over you, where you choose to be totally present in your being, in your body, and be present to what's going on with others and what exactly do they want from you, and choosing from that space. It's also about being willing to show up as all of you, like be all that you are. It's,
Yeah.
you know, for the longest time, I had, Helen, you'd mentioned about, you'd asked me to repeat that earlier. It's about where, where you hold yourself back because of other people's judgments. So, and when they gaslight you, when they are being a weird, mean, nasty energy, when people are being mean and nasty and they're judging you, they're just doing it only to stop you. Okay. And it's very natural for everyone to just sort of immediately, become that small limited version of you and just to sort of become invisible so that nobody even notices you, because at times it's really intimidating and you can't handle the nastiness or the meanness of certain people. And you start, as a humanoid, you start looking within yourself that what did I do for that person to treat me like that or to be so mean and nasty with me? It's the only thing is that you are too powerful. And the thing is, most people, the moment they see you, they acknowledge and they recognize your potency. It's just that they hope and wish and pray that you don't see that about yourself. Okay. That's what it is. And why wouldn't you choose to claim and own your power and your potency? Why would you sort of make yourself a limited version of you? What's the value of that?
Yeah.
So, Being You is a class that sort of opens up all the space for you, where you start seeing yourself for what you are. I know the thing is, the book is amazing, but the class is so much more. There's so much more that shows up in a class.
These,
So,
so it's not just reading it, it's not just information, because in the class, you're being facilitated into
right,
being.
absolutely.
And that's, I think, is a difference, because a lot of people, especially because it's class open to anybody, no prerequisite, does not require bars or foundation. And people who show up a lot of times are so new, they have no idea what facilitation is. So, Smriti, can you talk a little bit about facilitation in the Being You, and how is it different from bars, other classes and access, or actually even other modalities?
Okay, so Helen, the first thing we all run away from is actually showing up as us, as ourselves, or
Yep.
being us. And not many people are willing to receive themselves. Okay, so that's why they sometimes say that these classes are one of the toughest ones to facilitate, because nobody's really looking to be themselves, or they don't want to actually uh, own up to that.
Mhm.
Because when the moment you start receiving yourself, then what if you become too much? What if you become too famous? What if you are like, you just go all out there and conquer the world? So a lot of times that's a thing that they're energetically perceiving and they're stopping themselves. So that usually shows up. Well, in a bars class, there is a manual and they teach you all those bar points and stuff. But a Being You class also has a manual. But it's like we pull things out of the core of those people, whatever it is that's stopping them energetically. You're just so aware of what's going on for people because you've gone through those stages yourself. So it's just so easy to see what is it that's going on for them. And usually, you just ask lots of questions in that class, get them to start seeing where are they limiting themselves, what are the choices available to them, and what if they actually choose to go beyond, what magic are they capable of creating. It's about introducing themselves to them.
Yeah.
So that's such a beautiful way of putting it. I love that. It's, to me, it's this falling in love with you, but you can't fall in love with someone that you don't even know, that you've never had a conversation with, that you've never been willing to even look at, or, peekaboo. And it's interesting because it's like we've lived our whole lives. You were saying that, like,
we've lived a whole life being something that others want us to be.
And it's interesting because I've just been beginning to acknowledge how aware I am of other people's thoughts, feelings, emotions, desires, demands, everything else. And that is so intense and so loud, like in my head and my being and everything, that it's much easier to perceive that and respond to that, in other words, react, rather than actually get present, get quiet, get to know me, and choose what would I like to choose now? What would work for me? If I were having Rachel's back, for example, what would that be like? And I'm willing to bet that most of the people who walk into our classes or walk into these conversations or are listening to this live right now, they have that too. And they may not even have included the possibility that they're aware. I used to say that I'm not aware of anything. Like, awareness was like, what do you mean, me aware? No, everybody else is aware. I'm just here.
Yeah, you're so busy doubting oneself that, how can I know something better or whatever? And then there are times, like in my case, when I would walk into a party and suddenly I would meet so many people and I would just be so uncomfortable because I thought maybe I don't really like people that much and that's why it is like that. And I would just be very uncomfortable. So if the family that I've gone to for the party or the get together, if they happen to have a pet dog, I would just be the first one sitting next to the dog, just playing with the dog, because I would feel so much at home, because anything to avoid interacting with people. And now I'm aware. After attending all these classes, I'm totally aware that, okay, now I perceive all those people's judgments. And those judgments are not about me. Those judgments that I perceive are their own judgments about themselves. And wherever they feel they're not good enough or whatever. And I'm just perceiving all that and thinking those are my judgments about myself. But it's just these classes, especially in Access, they open you up to such huge spaces. You actually start receiving you with no judgments.
And what's interesting, because I know we talk a lot about like being you and changing the world and all of that, because I know I've done a lot of different modalities throughout the years, like searching and trying to find, and it was all
humanoid.
Yeah, and it was always improving you, self-improvement, which is totally different from those classes, from being you classes. From being you, it's actually not about improving something. It's about being you with no judgment. And because all of that
uncovers you. So it's like taking that mask of all those expectations of other people and actually discovering who's there inside.
Because
you're so busy living your life for everyone else that you start wearing the masks that they want you to. When you're not creating your own life, then when you give up the reins of your life to other people, especially your family, then guess what? They don't really have anything great in mind for you. They're just going to choose things for you which suits them. So the moment it's about being you is also about taking charge of your life, about choosing what works for you. It's about not stapling and folding yourself to cater to other people's whims and fancies when they need you. It's about acknowledging that you matter. It's about acknowledging your presence. And it's about acknowledging the gift that you are in this world. And when you start being you, whether it's in business, whether it's in other aspects of your life, in your relationships and other aspects, you have no idea whose lives you're changing just by being you. You just keep choosing things with whatever energy that whatever you perceive, and instead of trying to emulate someone else, or you try, let's take for example in business. I'm also a joy business facilitator, so it just comes in naturally, the business part of it. So let's take for example being you in business. When you are trying to create a business based on how others are creating, when you're looking at them, it's sort of a contextual reality that you're trying to fit into with them, where you feel, oh, these people have created this much of, like, they're doing this well, so if I'm doing equally well, then I'm at par with them. But the thing is that competition and all that sort of starts to set in. But if you don't get into caught up in the contextual reality with them, and when you're choosing to be you, put in your energy to whatever it is that you'd like to choose for yourself and to create a greater life for yourself, then the choices start opening up, pathways start opening up, and a lot of things start showing up. What happens when you're perceiving competition is when you start making yourself less and you start thinking, oh, someone else is greater because they're creating like that. What if you didn't look at anyone else and you started choosing only for you, just by being you? It's your energy that invites people to whatever business you have.
I love what you said about choosing for you. But a lot of people, when hear that, they immediately go into judgment, or it's selfish. I cannot do it for me. I have to do it for people. I have to do it for everybody else. How would you comment on that? Or what would you tell those people? How much of that? Because to me, it's not about being selfish. It's actually when we are doing it for us, we're doing for everybody else as well.
I would
So
just sort
can
of
you
introduce
say
them
more?
to, yes, I would just introduce them to the 10 choosing in 10 seconds tool in Access that we have. Because when you have just 10 seconds to live your life, at that moment you will choose whatever it is that you desire. You will not wait to look at what others expect of you, or how many people you're going to hurt if you make a certain choice. So that's
Mm-hmm.
what will make you totally present to what is it that you truly desire in life, and choose that. And also recognize that you're not responsible for other people's happiness. Do you get it? They are choosing, if you choosing something for you is instigating them, or if they are getting worked up for that, that's their problem totally. Why would you choose to stop yourself because others cannot take your success?
I wouldn't
Or
even call it it's their problem. I would say it's just their choice. They may not recognize that something else is even available. Like what you were saying with that first Being You class, your daughter chose, not cognitively, obviously, but just when there's this perception of something's going to be changing here, oop, I've got to pull you into what's familiar. Thank you. I've got to
right.
pull you into what's familiar for me. Right. I had this with a friend when she was about to take a foundation class and a 3-day body class back to back with another facilitator that was coming. Everything in her house just turned upside down because there was the perception of something's going to be so different here, but she chose through it. And that's where I was asking her, like the 10 seconds of choice. Oh, what a beautiful yellow butterfly. Sorry, I get distracted. But it was her willingness to keep going no matter what. And, it's just another step. It's not contorting ourselves to whatever other people it may not even be a problem. It's just, this is what's familiar for them right now.
Right.
And anything that's
Also,
beyond that familiarity is like, for them, rather than,
also, other people are so used to seeing you being a limited version of you. So the moment you start being yourself, the moment you start showing up as what you actually are, is when they cannot take it. You know, I'll give you an example. For the longest time, I would just sort of fit in with whatever reality other people had. Okay. And if I'm sort of in a friend circle, among my friend circle also, so I would just sort of create myself to fit in with them. Okay. And now when I suddenly choose something, and they just look at me and they're like, how can you do this? And I realized that I was wondering, but it comes so naturally to me to choose something like that. What's a big deal? And till then, I didn't even realize why they would be like that energy. Till I realized that they are so used to seeing me as a limited version of me that they didn't even realize that that's not what I am. I also didn't realize that that's what they were perceiving. So when I go out and I choose something that just comes naturally to me, they just look at me like, how can you choose something? It's like it's beyond Smriti. She can't choose this. She's not like that. She's so pathetic. So they're
Smriti's
so used
shy.
to see.
Smriti's so kind. She's so
Right.
nice. She's not gonna bite anybody's head off like a lion.
Right. Not anymore.
Good for you.
Not
Embracing your
anymore.
inner lioness.
Yes.
Helen.
It's about,
That's
yes, go ahead.
huge, because that people can no longer act around you the way they always have. There are no more like reference points or signposts or this is Smriti and this is how she constantly behaves. You can always expect this from Smriti. No, every moment is a surprise. It's like,
Right.
what's next? It's an adventure, like truly a Being You adventure,
And
It's like, what's coming now?
what if you're willing to be an enigma where nobody could just figure out what you are all about? I think to a large extent, that's what I am. Nobody can figure out. They
That's
think
And
they've got
you
me,
either. And
and I
that's
just,
the thing that's so cool. Neither do you, because you'll follow the new whispers and breadcrumbs and little blinking amazing lights of the universe. And it may look totally different than anything you've ever expected before. But
right.
something is like tugging at you, going, Smriti, come this way, come this way. And you head out in that adventure into literally like the song that my daughter was singing from Frozen 2, into the unknown, totally willing to just explore. And there's no, I have to be like this because I'm shy or because I'm whatever. There's no past. It's now what? And now what? And now what? I love that. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So
yeah.
I just wanted to share something. I sort of judged myself for the longest time for being too shy, and I would hesitate to speak up. Or I remember my first Zoom call, I just sort of messed it up big time. I just didn't know how to deal with everyone because I was perceiving everything about them. I was just getting download of information, so I didn't know how to process that and stuff. And but before I even got into Access, I used to always judge myself that maybe I'm not good at speaking up, or I don't know how to interact with people. But or because maybe I was very, very shy as a person. But being shy, I also made some very bold decisions where I actually chose to go flying, as in I trained to be a commercial pilot. I'm a commercial pilot. So I
Oh,
got married.
wow.
And after having two kids is when I took a decision to just go ahead and complete my flying. I was flying before I got married, and then I'd left that, and then I completed my flying. I received my license, my commercial pilot license, after being married, after having two kids. And so the thing is, you might, like, a person like me might be very shy, okay, but it doesn't stop me from making really huge, bold choices. So,
Yeah, fucking
so
powerhouse. That's
Yeah.
phenomenal. So do we call you captain or what?
yeah, you can call me captain.
I like it. Captain
Wow.
Goswani.
But also, isn't that shy a judgment? It's another judgment.
What's
And how much of that is stems from other people judging you, looking at you, maybe you being kind and sweet, and they're like, oh, she's just shy when you were growing up. And it's a label.
Of course, it is. In fact, today what I'm calling shy might have been my awareness of whatever was going on with other people, and I could perceive their judgments. But at that moment, I had no clue that was what was happening. Now,
Yeah.
ever since I got into Access, the Being You classes, and everything else, that's what started changing things for me. Where I know, okay, there's nothing wrong with me. this is what I perceive, and that's my superpower. It's not something I have to hide. So you're not choosing to be aware and being present and knowing what's going on for everyone else is a power.
It's a gift.
It's a gift.
And yeah, and we shouldn't judge ourselves or use it as a weapon against us. It's actually a gift. That's
yeah, because awareness is just that. It's just an awareness. And a lot of people, what I found out when I'm facilitating classes or I'm talking to people, a lot of people look at the awareness that they have to act on it. They have to do something about the awareness, because we're aware of everybody's thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And it's like, oh, I'm aware they need that, so we have to give it. No. How much of that we are all out, at least for me, all my life, I was acting on the awareness where I didn't have to.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it may not have been even like a spoken request, but it was a subtle awareness of what they desired, and you're immediately rushing to fulfill other people as an obligation, as a, that's my job description kind of thing, rather than what would I like to choose here? What's going to create greater here? What would be fun for me? Helen, that's one of the questions you gave me a few years ago. I was going through in my life, and you told me just choose what's fun for you. What's actually fun for you? And that was such a gift. It's like doctor prescribed orders.
Yeah, it's a prescription. Have fun.
That's a clearing. There's a clearing that I use very often. Sorry, did I interrupt you? Go ahead.
No, go ahead. There's a bit of a delay, so sorry.
Okay. So there's a question that I ask very often. If I was truly creating my life from the joy of it, what would I choose? And the more you ask this question, the more pathways start opening up for you. There's no, you don't decide what you have to do. It's just pathways just start opening up. There's just a level of ease that starts getting created.
Yeah.
And
a lot of times people confuse that they have so many obligations, and they decide that they have to do that. They have like those obligations to parents, to children. And the funniest thing, like my mom passed away last year, but before she passed away, there was a lot of obligations I had to do. And with Access, I looked at that. It's like, okay, so what is true here? And I started, we do a lot of puck and padding, which is clearing that. But I started looking at what's behind that. What is actually there? Because I felt obligated to call her every day. Like she made me, there was a lot of like that things that I've decided or I bought. And then when I started peeling it away, clearing all of that, I realized, wait a second, I'd like to call her. I'd like to visit her. And now it was not from obligation, but actually choosing from fun of it. Because for me, a lot of that in Being You classes, we peel away what's not true. Action might be the same, but it's no longer from obligation or responsibility, as we call it, but just a choice. Like you said, choosing for me, choosing in that 10 seconds.
And choosing for the joy of it.
Choosing for the joy of it, for fun of it, for ease.
For ease. Yeah, most people are more committed to creating conflict in their lives. They're more committed to conflict. And they don't even realize that all they have to do is choose to be more committed to ease. And the moment
people don't get the difference between ease. They're looking for everything to be easy, everything to be, sparkles and glitter and positive, and they're looking for only one side. They don't recognize that ease includes receiving everything.
Right.
And willingness to have ease with everything transforms it from a problem into something else that's available. And the more
possibilities.
Yeah. What a concept. So beneath, I've got the mantra of access consciousness going across. I realize I didn't put this as the mantra of access consciousness, but all of life comes to us with ease, with joy, and with glory. That's exactly what you're talking about. How much more joy are we willing to include in our life? How much more ease are we willing to include in our life? And ask for that. Like the question that you asked, having more joy, having more ease. And that's so beyond the way most people function, because we function according to other people's expectations and rules, and we're not truly being us. And the more we're willing to be us, the more we're embracing the ease, the joy, and the glory. And the more everybody else is invited into that, almost like a relaxed, like finally I can live, I can breathe, I can,
I can make choices.
Yeah.
I can do things that I never thought was possible. It's just that space of, now I have ease with everything.
Yeah, because a lot of times people act or actually react so much from that stress, from problems, from decisions and judgments, and
stories of limitation.
And limitations, and it creates so much energy that they have to overcome.
Yeah.
Instead, and if we don't do that, if we kind of take away that dealing with stress, dealing with problem, it's almost reminds me that fable about the animals always they get hurt, they suffer, they're done. The people, they get hurt, they suffer about it hurts, but then they suffer about the pain, but then they suffer about the suffering about the pain, and then they suffer about the suffering of the pain, and then they judge themselves for suffering, for the suffering of the pain.
The lie of the limitation there. And then you have that story, which people hold on to as like a historical, like a structure that they must, this is them, who am I without this story or without this history? And it goes back to, being nice and being whatever's expected of you or whatever you've expected of yourself, rather than being willing to be the ease of choosing and of possibilities.
Yeah. And the moment, sorry. And the moment,
okay, sorry.
Sorry. And the moment they get over that ease, or what you were just saying, Rachel, and the moment they get over the stories that they have, they get caught up in other people's judgments and again stop themselves. So that's what happens.
Yeah, a lot of times people start judging, oh, you have it easy, not realizing that we create that. We create everything from our points of view. So if we have a point of view that everything is hard and suffering and pain, that's what we create. And if we have the ease as our reference point, how much?
That's what we'll invite.
Yeah.
It's interesting because as you were saying that, I really got the awareness, the kind of the bling, it landed in my universe so much about how we function in this world as if the world is happening to us. It's like from the outside coming in, rather than recognizing that us being the fullness of us, we be to the world. So the world happens through our points of view. Nothing happens, it gets created, it gets invited, it gets tingled, it gets interacted with through our perspective, our expectation, our points of view, everything. That the way we see it is how we receive it. So are we choosing pain and suffering, or are we choosing ease and joy and glory and curiosity? And what else can I add? And what else can I experiment with and experience? And how much more could this be an adventure of living? If I were truly willing to let go of all those anchors, then now what? Because then I have
free. That was really beautifully explained. Thank you, Rachel, for that.
And how much of those stories that we get caught up is other people's stories. where we
Absolutely.
actually don't even realize that. I love access tools. One of them is like, who does it belong to? When I start asking that or being that, a lot of things start falling off. And again, more ease, more joy shows up. Because if we have so much, let's say, like I like visual. So if you have a plate, and on your plate, you have a lot of, let's say, garbage from day before or 10 days before, and you didn't wash your plate, and looking at that, how appetizing it is, even if you put something new there. It mixes up with all that garbage.
Ew.
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 It
Ew.
smells. So we just take that plate with all that stories we have from before, dump it in the garbage, wash it. We don't have to even look through that, what's important there. So what if,
Right.
because a lot of it
It's
is already spoiled anyway, even if it
it's
was important 10 years ago, it's not relevant anymore. So taking it and dumping it in the garbage and washing the plate, and now we have possibility of adding something new, something fresh, something that will actually create joy and be tasty in our lives. I like to have something tasty and fresh.
absolutely. It's like, no matter what your story has been, no matter what has happened to you in your life, you use that as a platform. So suppose this is a platform, you can use that story or that abuse or whatever you went through as a platform to either jump down from, go into deep spiral, or you can use that platform to leap and soar into more possibilities. Just choose way beyond. Don't let that, whatever's happened to you, stop you from making a different choice and from actually choosing from the joy of it. Is how we just tend to get caught up with the stories.
Mhm.
Also, I don't know if you have the time. I just wanted to talk a little bit about something to do with judgments and how you stop yourself based on that. So what happens is, something that I experienced was where, how when people sort of just, especially your own friends, tend to alienate you and they just sideline you and then they gang up together and then you're the only one left. And that's the time you don't know what to do. And you're like, okay, they're judging me to be something that I'm not. And so you want to go to them and tell them, hey, what you're thinking about me, it's not true. And but somebody has been feeding them stories about you or vilifying you, so you feel now what, whether will they even understand. It's very natural and normal to actually go and make yourself less and try and fit in and try and convince them that you're not that bad person that they're making you out to be. And the other option is to recognize, okay, if your friends truly care about you, you don't need to justify yourself to them. They'll be there for you no matter what. And that only shows up when you're willing to have your own back. No matter who's there standing there for you, whether somebody is there for you or not, if you're willing to be there for yourself, that is a game changer where everybody around you starts changing. The moment you choose you, the moment you start valuing yourself, that's for me is what being you means to me.
Yeah.
Choosing you, valuing you, being willing to be seen, with whatever with total vulnerability. And the moment you choose to have your own back is when everybody around the universe will have your back, definitely.
It's
And then
like you're
everybody else.
showing them how to treat you by the way you be with you.
Right, absolutely. You teach people how to treat you. So the moment you choose to value you, the moment you choose to be you, everything changes. And how does it get any better than that?
Does it get any better than that? I love that. I love that because we tend to, so like what you were saying before with, picking up on everybody else's thoughts, desires, everything else. We tend to, at that point, separate and eliminate us from our life and living because everything is about making everybody else happy and, doing and being everything for them. So it's essentially eliminating us from our very own lives. But by doing this, we include us. By doing this, we can celebrate us. By doing this, we can honor us. We can begin to actually enjoy living by having our own back, by being the fullness of us, by not, we can even sit and have a conversation with someone, you know, this doesn't work for me, if they're going into judgment. I was listening to a friend of mine, Sarah, speaking about something where she said she was in this energy of, there was a cranky, like a crunch in her relationship with someone. And so she sat with that herself and looked at photos of them together from other experiences that they've had, and just welled up with gratitude for herself and for the other person. And then they weren't in that stuck crunch anymore, because something in her shifted. She included herself. She included the gratitude and the joy and the appreciation and the vulnerability and the being present with what was there, without having to feel badly at all, but just being willing to be present with all of it. And that's such a gift, and it doesn't come when you don't include yourself in your life.
Absolutely. So, most people think that if I'm alive, I'm being me. And they don't realize that, if I'm alive, I must be being me. What else can I be? They don't realize that how much are you catering to just sort of live for everyone else because of the projections that they have. And then you just perceive those projections, and then that's what it is.
Yeah.
And a lot of times,
like, if my eyes are open, I must be awake and conscious.
Absolutely.
No. And a lot of times people don't get it, that it's not the cognitive. It's totally not cognitive. A lot of it is subconscious, where they perceive it, they act, and they're like, why did I just do that? And that's kind of where it's coming from, either from the stories, from the judgments, from kind of like perceive the need from other people. And some people actually in that moment of, you have to guess what I desire and give it.
Go ahead, read my mind.
Also, there are times when when you are just being there, being friends with people, and then suddenly they just sort of turn around, and then they are suddenly being very mean and nasty with you, and you start getting into self-judgment. What did I do wrong? What just happened? Especially when you've been a very contributive energy for them. And then the first thing that humanoids mostly do is like start looking within themselves and judging themselves, that maybe I must have said something or that they didn't like, or whatever. The thing is, what we need to recognize, when we are being kind, there are times when people can't receive that kindness, because they are not willing to be that level of kindness with themselves. So what they do is they'll create that comfortable distance between you, and then they'll try and sort of push you aside and look for reasons why they can't. If this person is being really kind to me, maybe she has an agenda. So that's how it functions. So you need to really be in allowance and let people, give them that space. If they're not willing to receive it right now, it's okay. You don't stop receiving yourself. You don't start judging yourself. That's important. You continue being you. Don't make yourself wrong.
And it shines the light for them too, because they can choose that whenever they're damn well ready to choose it, without us forcing them. It may take them 5 minutes, it may take them 50 years, but that's their choice and their timeline, or I mean, time is not necessarily real anyway, but it's their choosing their path, their way, and who are we to go and tell them how they have to do it anyway? So if we know that we have our own backs and we're willing to allow them to have their process and their choice, there's such a huge gift and an honoring in that. It's not trying to fix anybody, not trying to make them out to be anything other than who they be. and really being willing to receive them and receive ourselves with ease, joy, and glory. And it's such a beautiful invitation.
Absolutely. Being you is just about being an allowance for the choices that other people make, being willing to be seen as all that you are, being willing to uh, have a lot of ease with everything, with every choice that you make, and being willing to choose no matter what, and also choosing to be unstoppable.
Yeah.
So that sort of sums up being you for me.
Captain.
And Smriti, where they can find you? That's
So
here we are. Yep, here we are.
all right.
The
So
website.
I live in Mumbai, India, and I conduct a lot of classes. I travel worldwide. I conduct classes all over the world, mainly in Australia and also sometimes in London as well as in Virginia. So I travel and I conduct classes. And if there's someone who would love to host me, I'd love to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And I do conduct online classes, so they're most welcome to find me there. I think I can see my address given at the bottom of the thing,
Yep.
accessconsciousness.com // Smriti Goswami. So you can find out about my new classes, upcoming classes over there. I'm also a Joy of Business facilitator and also talk to the entity facilitator. So apart from being a Being You certified facilitator, so I conduct all these classes and workshops. So yeah.
And you have lots of fun with people in all sorts of ways. I love what Dr. Dane was saying in the Being You Certified Facilitator class. He said, there are so many amazing specialties in access consciousness, and they're absolutely phenomenal. And when you add being you,
Absolutely.
and you're willing to be you, and you add that to all of them, that's just being the magic of you. Everything is available. When you're being you, everything else melts. And when you're being you, everything is possible, and things begin to unfold with so much more ease because you're not living a lie. You're not living the intensity of other people's projections and expectations. You're actually,
and you're not creating yourself as others.
yeah.
Or you're just choosing to just show up as what you are, totally vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Can I just share something, little small
Sure.
thing? I'm not sure if you have enough time. So long back, that was a couple of years ago, I was like, what will it take for me to have more than 50 people in my class? And well, I did create a class like that where I had about 50 kids who were orphan, and they were orphans, and they were sort of abandoned kids who were part of an NGO. And I interacted with them, and I conducted a bars class for them. So there were 50 tiny bars practitioners that got created in that class. And I was like, okay, what's right about this? I asked for more than 50 people to show up, and they did, but they were all kids. So instead of them paying me, I was the one who paid for everything for them. And that's when it struck me that I was willing to be vulnerable only in front of those kids. I was not yet willing to be judged by adults. That the moment you choose to be you, the moment you choose to be vulnerable, no matter what others, doesn't matter how others are judging you, when you're willing to deal with those judgments or receive those judgments with no point of view, is when actually you start showing up. So that's what changed for me.
And I'm going to acknowledge you, dear Captain. How much joy. So I was, okay, 10 thoughts all at the same time. I love my ADD brain. So how much joy, how many possibilities, how many seeds of being did you spread out in the world that day with those 50 kids? And every little conversation that you have no freaking idea, because you're not even privy to, in their evenings or their other interactions or on a playground or wherever they play, those little seeds that you planted in their world are going out And they're going to still be seeding and growing, even when these kids are married or whatever, have their own kids and their own jobs as adults, whatever it is that they choose, that gift of seeing them and being willing to be vulnerable around them opened up a whole new space and a whole new future in the world that could not have existed otherwise. So in case you were going to any wrongness of you about 50 people and it was just kids and I had to pay for manuals and all of that, yeah, great. What investment in the future consciousness of this planet were you that you haven't acknowledged, at least up to now?
Absolutely. Thank you for that. I did not go into a wrongness. I was just questioning, okay, what's right about this? Where
Yes.
I'm asking for more than 50 people, but they're always only kids who show up. And I recognize that, I was just willing to be vulnerable only in front of them. I was actually willing to be myself just in front of those kids because I know they would not judge me.
Just like going to the pet at the dinner party,
right.
Same kind of thing, the kids and the pets.
If you actually want to know what being you means to each one of us, try being with a pet, and you know how your world just melts when you're around them because they're there with you with no judgment and total presence. That's that space. That space is actually being you.
Yeah, that's the truth of you.
That's the truth of you, yes.
That is the truth of you. And it's something that just melts everything because it allows you to be an active participant in life and living. I used to have a very cognitive, I've been playing with the tools since 2011, and I had them in a very cognitive, logical level. As Helen was saying before, I know this, but it's that underlying stuff. Like what you're saying, this looking at, I asked for this number of people and it was just kids. So what am I refusing to be? What am I refusing to step into? And with judgment, I've always known, if somebody's pointing a finger at you, there's 3 fingers pointing at them. They'll only accuse you of what they're doing, but still that judgment has a sting. And that willingness I used to sing a song with my daughter when we played with this when my husband was visiting his father, and his father was very, very judgmental. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to click on that quite yet, but we are having an intro class. I'll click on that later. But he was in Toronto with his father, and his father was just judgment after judgment after judgment. And I got that he wasn't trying to be mean. He was just doing a really good job of it. But I was singing a song with my daughter, to lighten up the mood for my husband a bit. And it was a Spanish song that's usually Bésame mucho, kiss me a lot. And we were singing, juzgame mucho, judge me a lot. Like if we're willing to recognize that it's just a thing, it's just somebody's energetic sneeze, if you will. Nowadays, we're all with masks. That's obligatory to wear when we leave the house and all of that. But if you think about it, their judgment is like a fart or a sneeze. They're coming up to you and they're like, bloop. But we don't have to do that, nor do we have to be present around it. We do have tools to be able to take that charge off. But that willingness to thank you for this, because I would do it in my head a lot. Oh, sure, barriers down, go for it, baby. Cha-ching. And I would do it with my head. There's this space of just being with it, not looking at, is it right, is it wrong, why are they doing it? Not any of that mind fucking, but just being with it. And recognizing that it too can be allowed to be invited into my world. And if I'm willing to receive even that with ease, joy, and glory, as we were saying before, without it having to
Absolutely.
be significant or relevant to my being. What a difference that makes. And that, is such a gift of the Being You classes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love these classes.
Yeah. And
I put a link where everyone can find all the different Being You classes or other classes that are being offered in Access Consciousness. These are specifically Being You classes. Helen and I have our very first intro in, because we're brand new at this, at the Being You
not
class,
brand new,
not at Access and not at Living, but with the Being You classes, we're doing our very first intro, and we wanted to play with the wealth of being. And so anyone who would like to join us whenever the 27th is, I think it's on a Thursday sometime.
I think so. It's
next week, if I'm not mistaken.
Next week's Thursday, and it's at noon Central Standard Time. But we're also doing another class, which is a full day class, split into 2 days on September 7 and 8. So welcome to those classes.
I think I messed the
awesome. All the best. All the best for those classes. I said, awesome. All the best for your first class. So
yes,
thank you. I'm actually so excited. I'm excited because that being energy is the one thing that I had shut off. You know, trying to facilitate correctly or trying to do it the way everybody else does it, or whatever I've judged in, years past of this is the way things are supposed to be done. And there's such a giggly joy in, I have no idea how it's going to look. And I'm so willing to just, and this is how this all got created. I mean, Being You Without Hiding, the Facebook group where Helen and I began to play, was she was hiding, I was hiding. I'm like, fuck this. This is no longer acceptable. We're not hiding. And
not hiding anymore.
Not willing to hide from ourselves. So this is where, because we both took the BYCF training, not necessarily sure if we were going to be Being You Certified Facilitators.
No, I was sure. You were not.
I don't know. It's the evening before class. Okay. And it's been such an interesting adventure and such an inclusive adventure. And I love that. And this is where Conversations on Being came from. Wow, everyone who's choosing this is so brave, and not from, oh my God, the world will end, this is horrible. No, it's from, wow, what if there are more of us, playful beings, willing to be and play and enjoy and create and contribute and just
stop hiding. And stop hiding.
Yeah, and stop hiding and be totally vulnerable. With kids, with pets, with adults, with everybody, with plants, with entities, with everyone. And be willing to be the fullness of us. And what world would that create? And so this is where these conversations came into being. Just kind of an impromptu playing.
And now
it's amazing,
yeah.
It's amazing. Thank you so much for creating this. It's an amazing platform, and most people don't even know what Being You is as such. Like, of course, the people who are in Access are aware of it, but others not really. So thank you so much for creating this and introducing people to this.
I'm going to interject. Even in Access, most people are not necessarily recognizing truly the gift of being. I'm a case in point. Took me quite a few years. I would shy away, hide away, avoid, do one of these things, like keep it over there. I'm not willing to go there. And yet, when we're willing to include it, when we're willing to include everything, it's amazing. And it is such a gift. And I'm so grateful for every single Being You facilitator. And I've asked, what would it take to speak to everyone on this platform? And you have been such a gift. And the conversations that we've had previously as well. But oh my goodness, there's so much I'm just going to call it gold, because I don't even know another word. There's such a brilliance about your willingness to show up, our willingness to show up. Everyone who's choosing to step forward and say, you know what, it doesn't have to be the way it's always been done before. What can we be now?
Yeah.
So
and we have a question. We have a question. It looks so interesting. What will it take to attend the class? Which is choice. Just choose it. There are a lot of classes going on. And even in here, in this time, in this COVID stuff, there are some live classes, and there are live and online, and there are a lot of online classes. And that class works beautifully online. It's just such a gift. Just choose.
And in fact, I was just about to say that people who are watching this right now, and if you think you've received even a little bit from here, just know that this is just not even 5% of what the whole class creates for you.
No.
This is not even 5%. This conversation is not even 5% of what you are in for when you actually choose the class. There is so much more. So just go ahead, choose. Okay, let go of your stories why you can't choose. Just go ahead. If it's calling out to you, just choose.
Yeah. Just choose.
And I'll just leave you with a clearing here. Okay, so what are you holding and hiding behind you so dynamically that if you didn't, would make you aware of a level of power, potency, presence, and capacity that you're not even sure you can handle with total ease. So everywhere you've been hiding yourself, this is the class. These are Being You classes are, I can't even begin to tell you how amazing they are. They really introduce you to you. You start receiving you. You start, letting go of all those stories, why you can't be choosing something. And, you also reach a point when other people's judgments don't matter, because you just have faith in yourself. That trust, that innate trust in yourself starts showing up, and you're not willing to shy away from showcasing that. That's what these classes invite you to. So just go ahead and choose, guys.
I love that. I love that. I was listening to an interview. I was doing a body process on my husband this weekend. And as that was going, I had, the earbud in the ear, and I had a conversation going, and it ended. It was a class, and it ended. And then a YouTube video with what's her name, Oprah Winfrey, came up, and she was quoting Maya Angelou. She was speaking about one of her mentors, and she had opened up a school in Africa, a school for women and for leadership. I don't know very much about it, but she was telling Maya Angelou, "This is my legacy." And Maya Angelou said, "No, you don't know. Every conversation, every interview, every interaction, every choice you've made up to now is your legacy, because you don't know how far that actually reaches out."
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So what is that choice, whatever it is that we're choosing, to be willing to stop hiding either anything behind us or, hiding behind anything. What if we'd be willing to let go of those stories and actually step forth into creating a new legacy for the world, a new possibility for the world, and including ourselves as those lamplighters that are going out there and inviting people to shine? And what else would be possible?
What else was possible? Truly.
Lovely. Smriti is such an inspiration. This is Facebook user, so I'm not sure who that is. They didn't give StreamYard permissions.
Okay.
Beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah. And thank you so much. It's been such an inspirational conversation. Like, each conversation is so different and so inspiring that we had so far, and what else is possible now. And I think our next one is on Thursday at
Thursday, same time, same place.
Yep.
So it's easier to remember that way. But I'm very grateful for you. And I am very great. This is very sensitive mouse pad. I go to pet the cat. I show banners. This is really cool.
Yeah.
So I wanted to tell you how grateful I am, and how grateful I am for the conversations, for everything that you've expressed and brought to this, both with the class. Thank you. That's starting to melt stuff in my world. I love that conversation. And oh my goodness, I captain, that you made such a
I captain.
yeah, I love that. Oh my God. So thank you. That's inspiring on so many levels, and other golden nuggets throughout the conversation. But I'm really grateful that you stepped into this little huddle on StreamYard, and I'm grateful for everything that you've shared with us, and everyone who's tuned in, who's watching it live or will watch it later. Thank you very much as well. And what else is possible now?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Helen and Rachel, for inviting me here. I really had a blast. And seriously, thank you so much. I'm really grateful for both of you and for what you're creating right now with this. Truly grateful. Thank you so much.
Our pleasure. Mwah. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.